to you within 24 hours after we finish up here today. All right, let's rock and roll. Thanks for joining, everyone. Really excited for this conversation today. I think we're going to all get a lot out of this wonderful speaker that we have here and the experience that she's had implementing Ironclad at her organization. Thank you so much for joining our webinar, Cut Your Cycle Time in Half, AlixPartners Proven Playbook. We have a great guest speaker, as I said. My name is Kieran Yumul. I'm a senior value engineer here at Ironclad, and I'll be moderating the conversation today. A little bit about me. I have a background in financial modeling and business strategy. And here at Ironclad, I work closely with legal, procurement, and finance teams to help quantify the operational and financial impact of contract management. And I'm so happy to be joined today by Lisa Black, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Kieran. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to join you today. As she mentioned, my name is Lisa Black. I've been at AlixPartners for 11 years. I am the legal operations director, and I focus really on scalable and technology-enabled processes throughout legal and across the firm, and really excited to share our story and what we've learned with you.
Fantastic. And we're so excited. So we will do a couple housekeeping items for everyone in attendance here. Please drop any questions that you have in the Q&A tab throughout the event, and we'll try to get them answered at the end for you. We'll also send out the recording within 24 hours after we wrap up today. And yeah, let's get started. So let's set the stage a little bit. Lisa, can you give us a quick overview of AlixPartners and the role that contracting plays in your business? What were some of the biggest challenges that you saw before implementing Ironclad?
Sure. Happy to introduce folks to the firm. If you haven't heard about AlixPartners before, we are a global consulting firm, really known for stepping in when companies face their most critical and high-stake challenges. For more than 40 years, our firm has helped organizations respond quickly and decisively to urgent performance issues, accelerated transformations, complex restructuring, risk situations, basically the moments when everything is on the line. And what makes AlixPartners unique really is our action-oriented, results-driven approach to deliver those memorable results for our client. Really, in short, we deliver fast, practical, sustainable solutions when it really matters. And for AlixPartners, contracting is really one of the most foundational operational functions that we have in our business. For us, contracting really isn't just paperwork. It's how we ensure quality, we manage risk, enable growth, and deliver just a consistent, trusted experience for our clients at scale. Some of the challenges that we had before Ironclad was our prior tool didn't match how we did business. We couldn't scale it fast enough. It didn't give us the flexibility or the ability to quickly adapt to the needs of the business. So we had frustrated users in legal, we had frustrated users on the business side, which then you have user adoption issues. And so everything's getting pulled out of the system. I really work with the best legal team I've ever worked with. They're extremely fast. But our prior tool just made providing their first class service that they're so proud of very challenging. So facing all those challenges, we opted to do a full rip and replace of our contract management tool and partner with Ironclad.
Amazing. Yeah. And a lot of the things that you shared just now are kind of common to the landscape that we see of, businesses thinking about implementing a new or different CLM system and the challenges they face. One of the things that really stood out when you and I talked was how unique AlixPartners contracting needs are. And as a consulting firm that operates in a very specialized way with clients, can you talk about what makes your contracting potentially different from other organizations?
Sure. We don't have a one-size-fits-all contract. The one thing that makes AlixPartners unique, we take that same practical approach that we bring to our client delivery, it carries through to our contracting. So our agreements are built to flex, whether the work is in the advisory space or operational or strategic or highly technical. Our contracts are designed to be flexible and highly tailored. We want to ensure that we meet the bespoke needs of our clients across all industries and all types of engagements. So because we focus on helping our clients in those critical high-stake challenges, our contracts need to be able to move and evolve at the speed of business. With Ironclad, if we get requests from the business, we can often make changes and respond to the requests the same business day.
The same business day. And I can imagine that having like a huge impact in a space like consulting where, that kind of customer service, like that relationship and that speed of action is pretty important for the things you guys work on.
Absolutely.
When you were thinking about evaluating, yeah, when you were thinking about evaluating CLM solutions, what were kind of specifically, what were you looking to support around that level of customization that you mentioned AlixPartners really needing and that flexibility to be able to respond quickly?
Sure. I think you'll hear me say the word flexibility probably quite a bit. I think that was key in our minds, was a flexible tool. Again, when you look at our overflow approval processes or workflow, they're pretty basic, but our contracts are very complicated. So we really needed to have a system that could support that level of customization. In our specific instance, we have over 42 workflows. And so that allows us to pivot and be nimble for those specific needs without having to upset the apple cart when we want to change one thing, so we can work with the business, as it's needed. We needed an opportunity that was a tool that was really easy for people to use, not just for our legal team, but for consultants. So I really feel that Ironclad offers that ease of use. And the other thing that was really important to us was that workflow owners and stakeholders could collaborate on a specific document in a space and not have to process things, first A, then B, then C. People can get in there and do things all at the same time, which has been a huge benefit, because a lot of times you have to work with folks outside of legal to look at different pieces of the contract, and that collaborative space was very important to us. The other piece that was really drew us to Ironclad was the fact that legal could own and build its own instance. While we had a wonderful developer at Ironclad help us initially, a majority of what we built, my team has built it and my team maintains it. None of us have IT background. While we love our IT team and appreciate their assistance, it's great that in this specific tool, we can really own that. And that allows us, again, to quickly respond to requests that come in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's such a common thing that we hear from customers that are, legal ops teams, like the ability to control your destiny a little bit, and make sure that you can do what you can to be able to service your, internal stakeholders quickly and make changes in the tool is just an absolute, necessity. So
For sure.
appreciate that.
And some folks will say a tool is no code. Ironclad truly is.
Awesome. That's what we hear as well. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm curious, talk to us about, because you have experience at working with other tools. And so you can definitively say that you've tested that in more than just Ironclad.
Exactly.
And so I'm curious more about kind of the early stages of this project. You and AlixPartners accomplished a rip and replace of a legacy CLM tool in only 5 months, which is incredibly impressive. How did you build that alignment that you needed to, across your internal stakeholder groups to be able to achieve that in such a short time frame? And, who are some of the key players that you brought into the conversation? How did you drive that adoption given, sort of the challenges with your legacy system?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a story I love to tell because I'm very proud of our team for accomplishing that in such a short period of time. Really, nothing unifies folks like a process they don't like. So having what we had be one that folks were not super fond of allowed, really kind of opened the door for this extreme switch in a very short period of time. Our chief legal officer, she's amazing. She's very forward thinking. So we presented the use case to her and the data and the use case for moving forward with Ironclad. She was fully supportive. She was aware of the tight timeline, but when she saw, kind of the project objectives, she was convinced we could make that time happen. She was also key in recruiting a steering committee, really, that was made up of a lot of our senior partners who are heavy contract users. And so we were able to kind of create that tone at the top, as well as partnering with our other corporations leads, as well as our IT team. And really, I have a fantastic team of legal professionals, again, that were able to design, test, and build. And we just rallied and were able to get it done.
I love that. Yeah. So you've got your kind of internal stakeholder alignment. You've got that unification around the idea that like what we have right now is not up to snuff. Tell me a little bit more details around the rollout strategy. Like you've got your people aligned. Now we need to drive adoption with this completely new tool. Adoption, especially in year one, is so critical to achieving value with a CLM system. So how did you approach getting your users onboarded and actually using Ironclad? And I know you shared with us that you had to bring more than 900 users onto Ironclad during that rip and replace process. Talk to us a little bit about those like rollout strategy details.
Sure. I think we kept in mind when we chose Ironclad as our tool again, I really feel Ironclad is a true walk-up tool. It's very intuitive. Our prior tool, we would have to have long training sessions, and even that, folks didn't walk away feeling equipped to use the tool, where we could walk away with Ironclad with very short time sitting with folks and they're ready to go. We also, like I said, having that steering committee of senior leadership really set that tone at the top, set our team up for success. And then we just decided as a project team, we were going to meet users where they were at. It didn't matter how we were going to do it. We went at every way we could think of. We had individual phone calls. We had group meetings. We set up short training videos on our SharePoint site, quick reference guides, tried to have individual meetings with our business units. Any way we could get the word out and have those conversations really helped with that business alignment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So no small lift, I think is what I hear you saying.
No, I think it was definitely challenging. And again, I have a great team and we were able to just dig in and try to meet our users where they were at. Part of the success was, I think, the pleasant surprise at the ease of use of the tool. So for them, it didn't feel like, wow, I have this whole new thing I have to learn. It was, wow, this is so much easier than what we did before.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. So I think, there's probably some things that, as you talked about AlixPartners realizing that the legacy system was not working. There's operational indicators of that. There's kind of what you expect to get out of a investment in a tool, a CLM. Let's shift a little bit into talking about some of that, like measurement of success, and maybe measurement of when things are not working. As I mentioned in the beginning of the call, I help our customers build business cases around CLM. And when I help companies build a CLM business case, I always start by asking, like, where are contracts slowing the business down now or creating risk for the business today? And, from there, we can quantify the impact of fixing some of those bottlenecks, like, faster deal cycles, less redlining for the legal team, less rework across the business, better compliance with preferred negotiation policies or risk standards. And then you can kind of translate those operational impacts into monetized impacts and KPIs like revenue acceleration or cost savings or risk reduction or cost avoidance. As we worked with AlixPartners and saw the really substantial decrease in cycle time that you were able to drive on Ironclad, we were able to link that process improvement to both time savings for your team, as well as revenue retention from your customer agreement negotiations. And so, given that kind of backdrop of connecting the value of some of the process improvements to potential impact business, I want to dive in and talk a little bit more with you about results. And besides just that cycle time reduction, I know that AlixPartners has seen a reduction in legal involvement on workflows, contract workflows in general. And you're handling more and more volume on the platform. But I know that this is not just a story about efficiency. I think there's a real intentionality that you shared with us about how your team is positioned to support the business because of that. Can you talk about a little bit about like what has actually changed for your legal team, since implementing Ironclad?
Sure, happy to. As I mentioned before, our legal team is extremely fast, even without a prior tool turning things around within a day, at the longest 2 days. So having to maintain that level of service as volume grows, as you can imagine, is a big challenge. So we were able to streamline some of the standard requests, figure out where it made sense for agreements to be able to go straight to the client versus coming into legal, which you've seen in the numbers and kind of that reduction of the cycle time. That has been a huge help. And by streamlining kind of the standard requests that come in. It allows our attorneys to really focus on the more complex processes. So the more complex agreements, the longer agreements that we need to really, set aside that extra time to work on. And the other thing it allowed us to do is sometimes our consultants are traveling and they're on client sites or they're on an airplane. And so we needed a tool that legal could actually step in the role of the consultant, get things started for them. We definitely pride ourselves on that high touch service, and we wanted to be able to continue that. And so having a tool that is so easy to use and to collaborate in allows us to scale and still provide that high touch service that we're proud of. And even, with the increased volume over the last 16 months, we've been able to maintain that short cycle time and still provide that high touch service that we're proud of as a team.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And I think that's such a critical level of detail when, our customers who are legal ops teams are talking about helping their team be able to focus on the more complex contracts. It's not really just lip service in terms of time savings. It's really the opportunity to drive attention and eyes on those contracts that are actually big revenue drivers or potentially huge cost savings opportunities, or areas of risk that the business hasn't really given enough attention to, and really get some appropriate appropriate legal eyes on those types of documents in a more timely manner. That's something that's a level of detail that potentially a non-legal person might not really connect the dots around. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's great.
Sure.
So, it's a great distinction. This is, time savings is not just about doing the same work faster. It's about elevating the legal team to be able to work at the top of license and what they focus on with the business. Tell us about how that shift has kind of impacted really the types of work that your attorneys are doing day to day. We kind of, mentioned some examples generally just now, but I'd love to hear specifically from, AlixPartners context. What are they able to focus on?
Sure. I think it's that shift from the routine to the more complicated. Let them, work, you said, that top of license on the more complicated task. This tool has also helped kind of our non-attorney legal professionals to step in and manage some of the more standard requests. Again, giving the attorneys back the time they need to focus on the more complicated matters. It also has given some bandwidth for our attorneys to kind of lean into learning AI, learning to use Juris to further empower how we can, use AI playbooks and red lines and contract analysis, as we're all just kind of getting our footing with AI and how to better use that. It allows them to get in there and use it and test it, knowing that as we get more comfortable, that's even going to elevate, what we do to be even faster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascinating. And that's another thing we've heard from, large ironclad customers to small is so many of our businesses have a real, focus now on getting the teams to be able to use AI efficiently and intelligently for the business. And folks are just absolutely so busy and day to day is just packed that it's we can't take the time to, figure out how to use AI to be more efficient. There's literally just, we don't have that initial, investment of time available.
And so we need AI to help us learn AI.
Yeah, exactly. Can AI bring the time down?
That's right. Yeah. AI,
Yeah.
as far as I know, hasn't figured out how to get more hours in the day. So if somebody knows that, I will take that.
That's right. What would it take?
That's right. That's right.
Amazing. I want to double back to this a little bit more. You mentioned that some of the success you saw initially with Ironclad has led you to expand from what your initial use case was to other areas of the business, like procurement and HR. And so thinking about what metrics or results convinced leadership from those teams, or maybe at a higher level in the organization, to support that expansion after your initial success? How are you tracking impact right now versus what you could see in your previous system?
For sure. I think, to be honest, we're still learning how to make the most of all the rich data that you get in Ironclad. There's so much data there. So I think we're still trying to figure out the insights that we're gathering and what it means, because we didn't have that visibility before. So it's still a learning curve for us. I mean, in the past 16 months, we've had over 5,000 contracts launched, over 3,000, have completed the full cycle. So, and our average time to signature from the time a workflow is started until the time it's signed is about 27 days. So now that we can see that metric, we didn't have it before, I'm hoping to watch that and anticipating that to continue to improve. And as you mentioned, we've had other teams within the firm reach out and say, hey, I've heard about this tool. Could I use it too? And we've expanded it to our procurement team. We're using it in our HR space. And so they're seeing the ability to simply build out a workflow and then be able to keep up with the demand and scale what they need in the tool as well. The other piece that I think has been a big marker of the success of the tools, we've had a 29% year over year increase in really active monthly users. So that's showing that our users who before were kind of walking away and saying this is too frustrating, we actually have more people onboarding and saying, I really want to use this tool. This really works well for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The adoption numbers kind of speak for themselves, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think what you said about just, purely having that insight, the operational metrics and data about what's going on in the contracting process to share with the business, that in and of itself is a huge value and can't be understated. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's go back to the AI piece, because this is something that a lot of our customers are thinking about and implementing and talking about. I know that leveraging AI is a big priority for your team and AlixPartners, and you're already heavy users of Ironclad Jurist. You're kind of ahead of many organizations in terms of adopting, legal AI tools. What are you most excited about right now when it comes to contracting and AI?
Jurist definitely is something we're excited about. Our attorneys have leaned into using it now with the integration into the contracting side of the tool. That's just amplifying what we can do with it. Looking forward to being able to access Jurist even in the editing portion of it, to be able to edit now in Jurist and have our playbooks live in there. So I'm really excited about that interplay between Jurist and the tool itself. I know it's coming to be able to access that actually within Microsoft Word. That's kind of where I don't know many bells, but our attorneys will live in Microsoft Word, and being able to have that tool at their disposal will be great. The playbook, again, like I said, being able to be that document you can run it against is amazing. And being able to have AI suggest workflows based on kind of past precedent, again, just allows our attorneys to excel at speed and just have more tools for them to use to make sure those complicated contracts, you have that background. You don't have to spend time searching and going back and trying to find, well, where did we do this before and what language have we used? Kind of have that at your fingertips with AI. I think the next thing I'm really looking forward to is when we get to like clause level reporting and searching. How often have we done, X clause, and where has it been standard versus non-standard, and what has been the exception language? Being able to do that via AI is going to be very impactful for our team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was really like you and your team have been such great partners with us on kind of piloting some of our AI tools. And that was a big advancement for us this year, being able to put, sort of legal purpose-built AI right next to the CLM and integrated with the CLM in a way that's like very friendly towards how legal thinks about managing risk with the use of AI. And I'm really excited for, what's coming with our AI products, because it's just going to really like multiply the ability to do, analysis on contracts, think about things on the next level, and be able to, again, like bring the legal ops teams up to a new level of operating, right?
I'm pretty sure when they announced that was coming, that integration on one of our monthly calls with our Ironclad team, I'm pretty sure I got up and actually like cheered. So I was very excited.
I think we all did too. Yeah, we did too. That's great. I want to talk also, AlixPartners is part of our early access program for new features at Ironclad. Would you share with us kind of what you've been testing and what impact you're hoping to see with some of the things that are coming in our product pipeline?
Absolutely. So you ask our customer success manager, Rachel, how does AlixPartners manage early access program? And Lisa Black will raise her hand just about every time. I love the early access programs.
We love that.
So,
yeah.
Yes. The conversational search that's now available within the tool, being able to not have to set filters and be able to actually type in a search like you would in any other AI tool, has been great. I know I've heard from several on the business side that they love it. So definitely getting some value out of that new AI conversational search, which I believe just launched for everybody. So I hope everyone's enjoying it. The other things coming out, really starting a contract based on a prior contract. So I have an amendment that I want to build, and I can launch a workflow based on a contract in the repository. It's going to be a big time saver for our business side, as well as being able to upload a third-party contract and have AI kind of complete the fields. So it's less keying in for the user. They can kind of get to the business of finalizing the contract, getting it to the client for review and whatnot. So really looking forward to those advancements, as well as just continuing to improve on the playbook redlining inside Jurist.
Yep. That's great. And there's so much coming, and it's good to hear that, you've gotten some positive feedback from the business on this already.
Absolutely.
I want to, have everyone here get the benefit of your expertise, like going through this process of starting to introduce AI to your teams and into your workflows. What kind of advice would you give to other legal ops leaders who are thinking about and maybe are earlier in the journey on incorporating AI into contracting?
For sure. One of the things that I love about our firm, especially our leadership, is they are all about failing fast. So go ahead, don't be afraid, try it out. If it doesn't work, you're going to learn and you move on. So we have that. We're kind of encouraged to go out, experiment, see what works. Don't be afraid if it doesn't work. Great. So don't be afraid of AI. I think is one of the first things I would say, as I mentioned before, lean into those early access programs. It allows you to kind of test it out, try it out, and give that feedback. I'd say raise your hand as much as you can. Value seeing what's coming and then providing that feedback back to Ironclad and back to your team. I feel that Ironclad has done a great job listening to us, listening to other customers, and improving tools based on the feedback they're getting from the field. We really feel like, we're thought partners with you in making things better. I think the other thing I would say with AI is, be patient. It's not going to be perfect, maybe 100% what you hoped for, what you expected when you first started. But as you get used to it and it grows, it just gets better over time. So, kind of manage those expectations that it may not knock it out of the park. We're all still learning. The tools are still learning. Everything's evolving at such a pace. So be patient. It does get better. And for us, it really was getting some of our AI kind of technically minded attorneys involved. It didn't just sit with the legal operations team. It didn't just sit with our legal professionals. I have a couple of attorneys that are absolutely fantastic and are really leaning into some of the early access programs with the playbooks and the red lines, so they can actually give me the feedback that I need to understand, is this working for you? Is this moving the needle? What else can we do? Rather than me trying to make assumptions, not being the attorney doing the review, whether these things are actually helpful. So having some of the attorneys partner with us in operations has been amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I love that idea about like making sure that you're getting like as much feedback as you can from your power users that are outside of your team and your purview. There's just so much to learn from the folks out in the business that are actually like, experimenting with these tools, and that feedback is like gold. So I really love that point.
And even if the feedback isn't positive, it's okay. Don't fear somebody coming back saying, well, I don't love this. This doesn't work. You can then, that opens up a conversation to, well, why doesn't it work? What could be better? And then that opens up the conversation to perhaps improve it so that, what is frustrating in the beginning improves down the road. So don't fear some negative, feedback. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the experimental kind of approach when you're first starting out. Yeah, I love that. And just kind of anecdotally, like in some ways that's our like internal approach at Ironclad too, is we are also like thinking about our internal AI strategies. Like let's give people an opportunity to experiment, and then let's also like take the cream of the crop and make sure that everyone can have access to like the best that we've built. I love that. And I know that that's why you guys have been such a wonderful participant in our early access programs too, is because you are able to be such thought partners, because you're able to collect such thoughtful feedback from the business and, help us make the product better. So thank you. Thank you for that. I want to kind of broaden that question a little bit. We've been talking a lot about AI. And again, your expertise on the line for folks who may be earlier in the journey on CLM, you guys have accomplished so much in a short time in terms of both the operational metrics that we've talked about with cycle time reduction, moving off your legacy system in a really short period of time, 5 months. For legal ops leaders who are just starting their CLM journey or are contemplating a similar transition off of a legacy system, share with us maybe some of your top pieces of advice for someone in that position.
Sure. I would say know your end goal. Know what parts of a CLM tool and process are really important to you. And as you map out your current processes, really look at it objectively, determine where you can optimize. And then I always say, create your ideal state. But then don't expect to hit your ideal state 100% on day one. You're going to be disappointed. So I always say shoot for that 75 to 80% when you go live, and then you iterate from there. And I will say a tip is you should never get to 100%, because if you get to 100% and you've arrived, the tool isn't growing with you anymore. So if the expectation is 100%, I think you're going to find that you're no longer growing within the tool. You're always iterating, you're always improving, you're always looking for ways to maximize processes and maximize revenue and turn these things around as quickly as possible. I would say another tip would be don't take an old process that is broken and try to put that into a new tool. So be willing to set aside what you've done before and figure out, is there a better new way to do this? I would also recommend getting support at the highest level and lean into those relationships that really help kind of evangelize the project, the implementation, that tone from the top. That's gold when you're trying to do something especially challenging, and that's change, and people aren't, not everybody's excited about change. So you want to have that kind of tone at the top support. And then when you're ready to go live, be creative. Figure out ways that you can meet your people where they're at. I've heard very creative stories from other legal ops teams on what they've done, whether it's, like I said, we try to hit a multitude of venues, personal conversations, phone calls, videos, quick reference guides. Some folks have thrown, like parties to kick off. So I think just be creative, have a little fun, make it an enjoyable process.
That's awesome. That's going to be one of my top takeaways from this conversation is like thinking creatively about where users live. And, we're in the process of rolling out an internal tool right now on my team. I'm going to meditate on that and see how we can have a party around rollout.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. Let's see. So I think that we can now open it up for some questions from the audience. I know that folks have been entering some questions in the Q&A here. Let's see who we've got here. Great questions here in the Q&A. So Lisa, how many people did it take to set this up to make a move from the legacy CLM in such a short time frame? Tell us a little bit about the team structure.
Sure. Like I said, we had our chief legal officer that led our steering committee, which consisted probably of about 12 of our most influential, I'd say, global partners in the firm, as well as leads of IT and our corporate operations. So that was kind of our working steer co. And then as far as the team that actually pulled off the work, we have our operations team led by myself, and then we had 6 other individuals. And so really it was the 7 of us building, testing, and prepping, as well as getting ready to onboard our users in a way that they were ready to go. And then we had our IT team supporting us as well, as far as, anything we needed as far as getting things out there to the masses so they could access those videos. So it wasn't a huge group. And again, because we could do it in-house in legal, we were able to move at such a speed because that was our number one priority for that block of time. And we didn't have to wait for other priorities to make sure it happened. And we were able to hit that deadline.
That's great. Yeah, that's great insight. We had a question here around balancing the workload performance with space and time to learn and experiment. And I'm guessing that, at least part of that question is around like AI. And we're talking about, having the time to learn about AI to be able to leverage it. Any kind of tips or thoughts on your experience with balancing that, time and space and the need to experiment?
Yes, I struggle with that myself. I schedule it. I will block time at a cadence that works for what's happening, at work. And I try to keep it. And, if there's a day in your week that maybe is a little bit lighter, kind of pick that date. For me, it's the end of the week. So it's a great way to kind of wrap up a Friday. You don't have to give yourself a full day. You can give yourself an hour. When you're consistent and you start playing with things and you start experimenting, you start getting more knowledge, you get excited, you find more things. And so I think if you just let, chaos ensue, as it does for all of us, you never find that time. So I think you just block it and you schedule it and you make it a priority.
Yes. Calendar blocks for the win. And I think this also speaks to something that you shared with us earlier too, about you being very intentional about getting, organizational buy-in on what you're trying to do with CLM. I feel like that also gives folks at other, in other positions in the organization, sort of implicit permission to spend the time or make the calendar block to be able to get in there and like experiment intentionally and, know that that's sanctioned, right?
Yeah. And I think as a if you're a leader in the legal ops space, one thing I have done for our attorneys as well as our legal professionals is I provide a summary every so often of here's some AI things to go do. Here's the links. So they don't have to go like, well, I don't know what to go look at, because sometimes that you feel like it's so overwhelming. I don't know where to start. So I will try and kind of prime the pump a little bit and give some suggestions of things to do, as well as setting goals for my team of what I would like them to make sure they do by the end of the year. So it just kind of keeps us all accountable. It allows people to have an easy on-ramp, to find things to work on without them having to feel like I have no idea where to start.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's great. Super insightful. We got two kind of related questions here, a little bit kind of detail oriented around the transition over to Ironclad from the legacy system. Getting the data transferred from the old system, what method did you all use to be able to achieve that?
Sure. We took advantage of the smart import. So we migrated over all of our legacy contracts, not just the active ones. We migrated everything over because we wanted to have a holistic ability to report, back as far as we had the document. So we definitely took advantage of the smart import, which helped tag the metadata of some of the documents as well as clauses. Now we still have quite a few in the hopper that we have to validate, but having that, that ability to use the AI to at least partially tag things and get us set up was great.
Mm-hmm. That's super helpful. We had some questions around your use of counterparty paper. What does your volume look like for that? And how many team members do you have kind of renewing contracts on your paper versus potentially like third-party paper? You may not have that detail, but we did have some interest in that.
Sure. In reports that I've run, it's another piece of metadata that I value that we didn't have great insight in our prior tool was when we're on our paper versus client paper. So now when I answer that question, I can give a confident answer. And we really run only about 30% on client paper. And so we're pretty good at contracting on our own paper, which is obviously always desirable, but we have about 30%, I would say, that will come in on client paper.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And that's definitely something that, varies widely across industries and across businesses, but I would say that we often see it kind of landing somewhere in that range of 30%. Tell us a little bit more about administrating Ironclad. Do you have one person on the team that kind of commits the majority of that work? And how much time do they typically spend? Do they have other functions that they're working on as well?
So as far as the maintenance of the, I would say the sell side, because we have, when it's the procurement, they kind of administrate their own. We actually help with the HR piece as well, but it's myself and I have one other person on my team that we do the majority of the changes and updates. We do have other contract specialists on our team that help with testing to make sure that what we build or change doesn't break anything else. So really a team of, I would say, 6 of us, but primarily the 2 of us manage any changes. And we definitely have other things going on other than Ironclad. So it's definitely woven into kind of our daily rhythm. And there's times where lots of changes happen and there's times where it's kind of status. status
Mhm.
quo. And when we hit those status quos, we kind of try to lean into what else about the tool don't we know? So we use that downtime to really figure out what else can we do? What are we missing? How else can we optimize?
Mhm. Mhm. That's great. And, speaking of kind of like internal measurement of what's going on in the platform, are you able to track and report on, how long contracts are taking with different like departments during the approval process, or like what's your insight like into who's the bottleneck in the process right now? Like, is the contract waiting on a particular team? Is it sitting with legal? How's that visibility for you?
I would say we're getting there.
Mhm.
Working with our customer success manager who can run more of those details in the background. The challenge
Mhm.
I have in trying to run the numbers myself is, like I said, we have other instances in there, the procurement side, the people side. And so I don't want to cloud the data when I'm looking at specifically the sell side. So I will have hopefully more information in the near future as I work, because our customer service success manager can run very specific numbers, and we're working on getting those metrics in place. So I'm excited to see kind of what that looks like.
Mhm. Yeah, that's helpful, Lisa. And I know internally we're also thinking about, what data is available right now on the platform and how customers can
Mhm.
access that, and how we can better support with some of that, data tracking and helping our customers be able to be more self-sufficient as it relates to reporting and bottlenecks and things like that. So that's great. One quick follow up here, and then we'll wrap up. Follow up on the smart import. You shared that was, one of the key features that you used to import some legacy contract data. What percentage of contracts were you able to kind of automatically tag using Smart Import?
Well, unfortunately, our IT team did most of that work. So percentage wise, I don't know that I can answer. I think from what I understand, it was most of them. So
Mhm.
I would have to get the exact percentage from them, because we were very thankful to have their help with that part of it while we were building. They kind of managed the legacy import. So unfortunately, I don't have that exact statistic, but I know they used it for a majority of them.
Mhm. Okay, great. Well, super helpful. So, yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely.
Just, love to have your expertise and just, being through the trenches of making this transition from an old system to Ironclad. Just great nuggets here throughout the conversation. So, thank you. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. We appreciate you jumping on. If you're interested in learning more about how Ironclad can help your team, check out the link in the chat and reach out to our team to get more info. I'm happy to answer any questions that we didn't get answered for you today on the call. And again, thanks for joining, everyone. Take care.